This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Joining us today is Aidan Bishop, the Executive Director of Bluebird Merchant Ventures, following a recent visit to the company's South Korean gold projects, that is the Coang and the Gbong projects. Thank you very much for joining us today. Aidan, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Mark. It's good to be with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. Of course, you've just come back from a recent site visit. So I wonder if we can first of all get a bit of a brief overview of the trip to South Korea and what really the purpose of the visit was.
Yeah, well, I just got back actually to Manila from South Korea this past Saturday, and it was my 9th trip for the year.
Okay.
So, of course, our main assets are in South Korea, the Gbong mine and the Coang gold and silver mine. And as much as the market is aware that we're in a permitting process on both those projects. So I've been going every month to Korea to just check on the progress and to ensure that things are moving in the right direction. And hopefully that we'll get a successful outcome on both projects. So that's why I was there. It was certainly a lot colder in South Korea this past week than on previous trips as the winter is coming. But the general mood was positive. And so I came away with a sense of optimism.
You came away with a sense of optimism. Excellent. Okay, well, you talked about this permitting process. This is relating to the temporary mountain use permits. Is that right? The TMUP, as you call it?
I think we call it the MTUP, but yes, that's correct. So I mean, permitting can be quite confusing, I think, for shareholders. And of course, we are looking to go into production. So permitting during an exploration phase of a project is a lot easier than when you're trying to go into production, for obvious reasons. Of course, there's environmental considerations, community considerations. And so, we've got sort of half of the permitting has been completed on both projects. So you take Coang, for example, and Gbong, the provincial governments have issued us a permit to develop. So which means they're happy for the project to go ahead for us to proceed into production. And so the mountain temporary use permits, which are permissions that are granted by the local government that allow us to use a specific piece of land on surface where the mine is. And so that's the process we're going through. It's a process that is it's not quite as straightforward as one would think. The Mountain Temporary Use Permit is legislated under the Forestry Act, where, of course, the permits we received related to mining were under the Mining Act. So that's what we're in the middle of that process. That's where we are.
And so you've got both permits there. Does one have to come before the other, or are they both working at the same time?
Well, Previously, we were advised to apply for the permit to develop first of all, which we did and successfully were granted. We could have applied for them all together, apparently, which we've since found out, but we haven't done that. So the Coang permit is, as we've announced, was referred to what is called the Board of Audit and Inspection, which is an independent body to review the process that was undertaken by the local government, and we're hoping for a positive outcome with respect to that.
Okay. Do you have any update on where that is in the process, or is it a matter of you'll find out when you find out?
No, we've. I spoke with our legal advisors, and who are keeping up to date on the process. So all of where we are, that Board of Audit and Inspection has responded with some questions to the local government. Okay. And then they have a period to answer those questions, and then we will be able to give a response based on their answers. So it's meant to only take 60 days. However, we were advised from the outset that oftentimes, it takes longer than that, even though they're mandated to respond within 60 days. So we're hoping we'll hear before the year is out. And
okay.
on Coang. Coang, of course, was the smaller of the two mines, and it was easier to access. There was a lot of upside potential on it, and yeah, that was much further than the resource that's already been identified.
Okay, so you're hoping to hear back before year end on Coang there with the mountain use permit. Once that has been granted, is that you're able to get active?
Well, once that permit's granted, yeah, then we can start to open up the mine, and we can start to move forward into bringing the mine back to life, and that's the key step for us.
Okay. Well, just talking about Gbong then, what's the situation here with Gbong? Did you actually follow through on the mountain use permit application as well, or not?
Yes, so look, Gbong's the larger of our two projects. Gbong was always going to be the company maker. This was South Korea's second largest mine. There's over 100 kilometers of underground development. So it's a very, very large project. According to Korea's data, there's over 500,000 ounces at 7.36 grams a ton. The belief is there's over 1 million ounces that's still left underground for us to mine. So we've been going through when we started to go through the process for the Board of Audit and inspection at Coang, we paused the process at Gbong to assess how best we can go about getting the mountain temporary use permit at Gbong. And we've made some great inroads into some relationships there in Korea. And what gives me a sense of optimism about Gbong is that we've been able to establish all of the relationship paths necessary now for a successful outcome in terms of the local community, the local government, and also at national government level. So in that respect, I'm very confident now that we have those relationship corridors that have been opened up for us to be able to get this permit.
Okay. So that was paused, but you're looking to submit the application again fairly soon, are you?
Well, there's a process in submitting the application, and from this last trip, the local government have made it very clear to us what they would like to see in terms of some community willingness for the project, and a few other things. So that process is well underway, and once we've got that, then we're going to be able to submit that application, and hopefully it won't take too long for us to receive it. But the most important thing was that we do have the relationship corridors necessary for a successful outcome here. So that's the expectation, and that's what we are pressing towards.
Okay, so you've got a couple of things to get on with before, like you say, getting the local community on board. What can you give any more specifics as to what you have to do to try and get that local support?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's basically a process of community engagement. Now, by the letter of the law, you don't need the community approval to do a project like this in South Korea, by the letter of the law. But in terms of the practicality and the application of the law, in this case, the local government is really looking for the community, to really get behind it and support the project. Okay. So Gbong has 27 villages, which is these are not very large villages that cover the Gbong area. There's about 3 or 4 that are nearest to the mine area that we're going to access. So it's really about explaining the project, what are the benefits of the project, and getting the community on board. That's important. Secondly, it's about the land that we're going to use to access the mine. There has to be, an agreement there regards to that land that we're going to use, and those are the key things.
Okay. So, just in terms of your levels of confidence about getting the mountain use permits for both projects, how are you feeling, or how's the board feeling?
Well, look, as I say, this is my 9th trip there this year, and I've been going every month to really push this process forward. And, the board, of course, we're the, large shareholders in the company. We've got substantial skin in the game. It's in our interest for this to happen, as it is in every shareholder's interest. So, look, I came away probably with the greatest sense of optimism I had in all of the trips that I've taken to Korea, that we've got the the best chance that we've ever had of getting these permits. And I don't say that. I say that really due to my confidence in the relationships that we've established with potential local partners, with a key person that is representing us, who's from the area, the Gbong area. That's really the reason why I believe we're going to get it.
So, of course, a lot of the work at the moment will be on these mountain use permits, but what else is going on the project? Any other little bits and things you can be working on, tidying up to really get the ball rolling on them?
Yeah, look, there's a few other things that we're doing as well. We're looking now at the type of equipment that we're going to buy. We're looking at where we're going to source that from, and hopefully it won't be too long before we can start making some purchases. To get this equipment so we can get the project rolling.
Okay, so looking at making purchases. Okay, excellent. It'll be good to have a lot of things in place for when indeed those permits do come through. You can effectively get started immediately, which I guess is what you and the team really want to achieve. Is that fair to say?
I think it's fair to say that we've been waiting a long time for that event. I think it's fair to say that shareholders have been long suffering and waiting for that event, and nobody wants to see this happen more than us and our shareholders, and we are striving to make that happen.
Okay. Well, just a final thought, Aidan, if I can, just on the Batangas Gold project. Are you able to give any sort of updates on this project while we're talking here?
Yes, the Batangas project, of course, we farmed that out to a local partner who's got substantial experience in the mining sector in the Philippines, very well connected in the Batangas area. So that project's progressing. We've made some announcements recently upon that. I actually was with them this morning, and more recently I was in a meeting with an environmental company, and they're doing some planning now on the environmental impact assessment, which is the key work stream that needs to be accomplished prior to getting the permissions, and that will allow the Batangas Gold project to go into construction and ultimately into production.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Aidan Bishop, the Executive Director at Bluebird Merchant Ventures.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.